I'm Alicia.
And I'm Maddie.
And welcome to the Fangirl Diaries, a podcast where we talk about our obsessions,
Reminisce about our teen icons,
and explore the books, movies, and shows that made us the incredibly nerdy 30-somethings that we now are.
Hello, everybody.
Hello. This is an extremely exciting episode.
Yeah, I'm just back from the Eras tour.
I hate you. So upset by this. I can see your bracelets, and they are upsetting me.
There are many.
This
is not even all of them.
Oh, it's not fair. We'll have to talk about your experience and my lack of it in a minute.
Yeah.
But we must say that along with the awesome topic of today, which is
Taylor Swift,
we also have a slightly different element to the podcast today.
we have a special guest.
We've not done a special guest yet.
No, we've had no guests yet, so this is an honour, I think.
And we should say that we have had this special guest planned from when we were talking about first doing the podcast.
Yeah, it's been on the list of topics, and yeah, the guest has been on that list.
Yeah, we were like, okay, at some point we will have to talk about Taylor Swift, and it can't just be us. We have to have Ben!
My husband, Ben!
Hello.
Hi!
Ben is here!
I'm certainly a guest. I can't vouch for special,
No, very special.
but I'm very glad to be here. I think actually my presence on the Taylor Swift episode was promised to you, by you, to your listeners on an earlier episode.
Oh, it was. It actually was. It was really early on. Yeah, it was like the third episode we ever did. And it was when your big news was that you guys had tickets.
Oh, yeah, we got the tickets. It's all come full circle.
Have you really been doing this podcast that long?
Yeah.
We've had those tickets like a year.
No, I know. That's how long this has been going on. And I was so upset. And you told everybody how you'd pretended to do work that day, but actually
been
sat on the...
refreshing all day. And we tried... I got a code for Edinburgh, and there were 3 chances during the day for each of the 3 Edinburgh shows. So at 11 a.m. we got to try and get tickets, didn't get them. At 1 a.m. we got to try and get tickets for the Saturday night show, didn't get them. And then 3 p.m. was the last opportunity for us to try and get tickets for the Sunday night show, and we got them!
Oh my God.
And now that time has passed.
Yeah, you've just come back from it.
We literally just come back from it like a week or so ago.
When we were talking about the initial topics we would do for this podcast, and it's like a list of all the nerdy subject matter that you and I are obsessed about.
Yeah.
And then we were like, Ben, you have to do Taylor Swift.
Yeah.
Well, now you successfully made it through a whole season of the Fangirl Diaries, which has been great to see from the sidelines. Most of my experience of your podcast, other than being a very faithful listener, of course, has been coming home from work and hearing you guys recording, hearing you just giggling to each other in a room upstairs.
Sorry, Ben.
And also just going, hello, in increasingly loud voices.
It's easy to make fun of that. Hello, but hey. We should actually have had you open with that today. Like, hello, this is Ben.
Yeah, but just way deeper.
Yeah, it's true.
Hello.
So why have we got you on, Ben?
Yeah, Ben, why are you here?
Well, it has been rumoured that I am a bit of a Swiftie.
Yeah.
I was absolutely stoked to go to the Eras tour, and we'll get more into what the experience of the show itself was like. But I've been there, I like to think, since kind of the beginning.
Yeah, you're like the original fan.
It's a real feature of my life, I suppose.
Yeah.
I love this because everybody thinks it's such a girly topic, but I know that Taylor Swift is a big deal for you, and always has been. I have witnessed Ben's Swiftie mania, or whatever you would call it, firsthand multiple times. So there was just no way that we couldn't have you on this podcast, because as we go around, it'll be revealed that I know the least about this. And it turns out Ben is the subject expert. So really, this is going to be me asking Ben a series of questions.
So why don't we talk a little bit about the Eras tour while it's on our minds, and then we can kind of go back to the beginning and where it all began.
Yes.
How was it, you guys?
So good.
It was incredible. I knew that it was going to be absolutely mind-blowing, But in the week or so since we got back after having seen the show in Edinburgh, so we're now a few days on from that, since we're here recording as she's about to perform her third show in London. She's in the interim been to Liverpool and Cardiff, and then she jets off to Dublin. I knew it was going to be absolutely mind-blowing, but nothing could prepare me for what I saw. And the more I think about it, the more I am certain that this is the defining musical event, not just of the decade, but maybe our generation.
Wow.
And people who were alive in the 60s and 70s talk about like when the Beatles went to the US and you saw all the screaming fans waiting for them, and then waiting for them back when they came to the UK and waiting out at the airport and waiting for them on the runway and taking pictures and stuff. This to me is like that for this generation.
Yeah, she's competing at that level of like all-time greats now. She's not just like competing with the other people who are currently in the charts. She is competing to be like one of the greatest like musicians ever.
Yeah, the overall dominance of this in the news meant that somebody at work told me the other day that they had tickets to Placebo next week. Now, that is something that you and I would have been aware of before.
Yeah.
Or I noticed the other day that 30 Seconds to Mars are on at the O2. And I
know.
messaged you being like, what's happened to us? Why don't we know this anymore? And yet I knew the dates for the Eras tour.
Yeah.
She has eclipsed all these other people. She's the must-have ticket of basically like, I've never seen people be so excited about this since people thought they were going to go and see Michael Jackson.
Yeah. And I think it's not just about like her like legacy as an artist, which it clearly, it's a tour that's designed to celebrate that, right? It's the Eras tour. It's every single era of her career, which has been over 15 years.
Is an era an album?
An era is an album.
See, this is the kind of thing you're going to have to explain to me. Yeah. An era is
Each
an album.
album that she has released is represented, apart from her very, very first one, is represented in the Eras tour, and it doesn't actually go through chronologically through her albums. It kind of jumps around. But yeah, it's really about her kind of legacy as an artist. But not only that, it's just a unique show in the amount of dedication and work that's been put into it. I don't know of any other artist now who would go on stage and do 3.25 hours of just their songs.
Yeah.
It was absolutely ridiculous.
Yeah, you can take everything about the biggest, most impressive gig you have ever been to and multiply it by like 3. It was insane. And so we were in Murrayfield, which is a rugby stadium. It takes about 50,000 people or 40,000 seated. It took 70,000 for the concert because of all the people standing up as well.
Oh my God.
Which actually for the Eras tour is not actually that huge a stadium. She's been performing in these NFL stadiums in the US, which take like upwards of 100,000 people. But even this, the ferocity and enthusiasm of the crowd made it feel like you were part of a movement. I've never heard a noise anything like at the start of this concert, where she emerges up from under these giant feathers and through the mist that's on the stage. I thought I was actually going to lose my hearing at that point.
Yeah, it was
and
louder
not be
than any
able
concert I've been to.
hear any of actually the remaining 44 songs that she was going to perform. It was something else. And yet, one of the greatest things about Taylor Swift as a person, and therefore this as a show, is she makes you feel like it's all just for you.
I see.
And you didn't have to be stood down there in the front row to experience that. We were sort of up roughly towards the front of the top tier, but we were about halfway down the stadium. But it just small things which you wouldn't necessarily have thought about. So there is something resembling a stage at one end of the stadium. But most of the performance doesn't actually happen down by the stage. It happens on this great big long pier, which extends out into the middle of the place. So actually, regardless of where you're sat around the edge, you're always feeling like you're closer to it. It was just amazing. And when you hear the music, it doesn't feel like it's for 70,000 people. It feels like it's just for you. Yeah. And we'll get into more about the phenomenon of Taylor Swift and how she's able to achieve that. But it's just amazing.
Because we should add for context that all three of us are not novice concert goers. Like, we've been in stadium environments, you guys have been to a million festivals, I've seen Taylor Swift live before, I saw the Reputation tour, so we've all, but you guys are talking about this on like a different level.
It was on a
from
different
anything
level.
else.
Absolutely.
Yeah. It did look that way when, because you guys didn't see deliberately the Disney Plus version, have you? You've not treated yourselves to that.
No, we watched it in the last 2 days.
Oh, did you?
Since we've got home.
I'm so glad, because I want to ask your opinion on it.
Yeah,
because
yeah.
That was all I could get. That was it. That was my hit. I was like, I don't have a ticket. I'm going to pay the extortionate cinema fee to go and see this in the cinema. I've watched it on Disney Plus since, but you guys have seen the Disney Plus version and the actual version.
Yes, but we specifically didn't want to watch the film before we went. And
Yeah,
it
we
has
saved
been
it.
it's been pretty hard to keep away from all the Instagrams and TikToks and things. So I think I probably had seen a little bit of what was going to happen, but every time something would come up, I'd be like, oh no, scroll on, Carrie, I don't want to see. Whereas I think Ben went in pretty fresh.
Yeah, I deliberately didn't look at the set list, didn't look at any videos, definitely didn't go anywhere near the Disney Plus thing, that's how I like to do it. Other people, of course, are going to the live show having just been absorbing content or having it pumped into their veins for a year before they actually go and see the live concert. But there's no right and wrong way of doing it, of course.
You're right, because she's been performing it, I feel pretty solidly for maybe over a year
and a
now.
half.
A year and a half. So I have allowed myself to dine out on the content, because why not? And the show itself, while there are some surprises, right, it's relatively formulaic. So you could have watched basically the entire thing over and over through all the social media channels.
And there are people who do it. There are people who watch live streams from people in the audience of the shows every night.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Okay. So before we get on to Taylor generally, just to finish off the Eras experience, I want to know what, if anything, surprised you guys? What were you like, oh, that was cool. I was not expecting that.
For me, it was actually the new set list for the Tortured Poets department, which when it actually came out as an album, I wasn't immediately hooked by, but it really, really worked live on stage.
And as they say on a podcast that I listen to a lot, just to remind the listeners, the Tortured Poets department is her 11th and most recent studio album, because it came out midway through the Eras tour. So she was performing in the US and South America last year. In April this year, she releases this brand new album, double album, 30 whatever songs, and then within a space of about 4 or 5 weeks has integrated it into the show for the European leg of the tour, which kicked off in Paris.
Yeah, because this is new, isn't it?
It's brand new music, and I wasn't 100% sure whether it would be, I was like, oh, but I just want to see the original Eras tour, they're going to change it. And no, it was fantastic, and it was actually extremely theatrical. Of all of the, maybe not every single one of the sets, but it was in the top maybe 3 of the different eras in terms of staging and theatricality and performance. It felt quite close to some kind of musical theatre-y, almost. There was even bits where I was like, that looks like My Chemical Romance or something. She was doing these military jackets and marching band, and it was it was extremely theatrical, and I obviously love that stuff, as you know, so.
On that note, could we please have everybody's submission for best outfit?
Ooh.
It's tough, isn't it? It's so hard.
Oh.
Goodness me. Well,
It's really
actually,
hard.
when we get into the obsession fuel later, we can talk more about the outfits. Because
wait.
some people really, really are all over this. I mean, for me, it's really impossible to separate it from the music. So I'd call out 2. The ball gown she wears to perform songs from the Speak Now era, which I sort of like to think of as my era, because I'm older than the average Taylor Swift fan, and the brand new gown that she wears for the Tortured Poets department. It looks like paper that unfurling that has words written all over it. It's amazing.
I thought I was seeing her vaguely on the corners of social media wearing something that looked like a wedding dress. Is this what I'm thinking of?
It's almost like a wedding dress, but it's very clearly like a manuscript or a book,
Right.
with words on it.
Very cool.
Yeah.
I couldn't pick one of them, but I like Taylor in the spangly jumpsuits.
Yeah.
Not jumpsuits. What are they called? Like
Bodysuits.
Like a little swimming costume.
Yeah.
And I'm like, you go, Taylor, do your thing.
Lover, I think, is the main one where she wears those.
Is that the rainbow one?
Well, she
Like
wears
the
different
light-coloured
ones
one?
each
That's
time.
it. There's a nice rainbow one, and there's the one for Midnights with the leg thing that I think looks very cool. What is that called?
The garter.
Thank you.
Yes.
Yeah, and I'm like, you go, Taylor.
Anyway, Ben didn't get to answer the question about what surprised you the most before we go back to the beginning. What surprised you the most at the Eras tour?
I think it was there are, of course, in every show, there are the surprise songs. So towards the end of the show, there's a short section where nobody knows which 2 songs she will perform. They're ones which aren't part of the regular set list, and she'll perform one solo with a guitar and one solo on the piano. And nobody knows in advance what they're going to be. And the songs that she chose to sing when we went almost felt like they had been picked just for us. And that it absolutely blew me away. For reference, the song that she sung on the piano, it was a mashup of a song called Haunted, which is an album track from the album Speak Now, which is one of our favourites.
Yeah, pretty much my favourite from that
album.
And
then she has the sheer audacity to mix it up with one of my personal favourite songs, which is a duet with Bon Iver from Folklore, which is called Exile, which is just an absolutely beautiful song. So that was maybe the 5th time that I cried while we were at the show.
Oh, you guys! Because actually, also on the like random selected songs, because this is not somebody with a small like music catalogue. She has hundreds of these to pick from.
I think it's up to around 270 songs she has recorded and released.
Right, so the chance she was going to play something that like is important to you guys is pretty
pretty
special.
It could have been a whole load of stuff that we just like didn't really know, and because we're not quite at the level of knowing every single of the 270 songs. I'm sure there are Swifties out there who could literally sing any one, but we're not quite at that level. But we felt very honoured that, those songs came up. We loved it.
So on the crying 5 times, which I'm totally here for, what was like, we've talked about what surprised you, but so what was the moment where you thought, I just love it so much. What was like the most affecting moment where you were like, bloody hell, I have to cry?
I think when it actually started, we'd been at the stadium for quite a while. We've watched Paramore play. Which
we have to come back to that.
We'll come back to, because Paramore easily could hold down a stadium of that size on their own. Mm-hmm. But the anticipation, not just over the course of those few hours, but over the course of the last 18 months since she announced that there was going to be a European leg of this tour, and just knowing that it was all building up to this, when she comes out and kicks off with songs from Lover, just seeing it all come together and her actually being there on the stage, it just completely set me off.
And did she do it the same way from what I've seen on the Disney Plus version, which is she comes out from like under these big like floaty things. You guys are saying sort of feathers, and you're like, there she is!
Billowy, sheety feather thing.
Yes, her like reveal is pretty cool. Her
cool.
entrance. Yeah. Did you see any celebs?
No, I think most of the celebs have stuck with Wembley, so there've been a lot of celebs on all the socials in the last couple of days, but no, I don't think there was anyone particularly in Edinburgh.
It's the sort of thing where I like all the adjacent Taylor Swift content, so later on we can talk about like, I'm always here for her gossipy news. But I've like on a daily basis just been looking at like, who went to see Taylor yesterday? Who was there? And I was disinterested in like, okay, Keir Starmer went. I was like, what are you doing there? And obviously like her selfie with the royals. But this morning I saw that Theo James had been with his kids, and I was just like,
Ashton Kutcher was also there yesterday.
Wow.
Yeah.
So we're not going to talk about the video of Prince William dancing to Shake It Off then?
I know, that was amazing. It was incredible. It's like the best dad dancing I've seen in a long time.
That's it. I love that it's been dads. Like, I didn't see in the footage of Theo James, it was just him and these like girls. Like, I didn't see the mum. No. It's like very enthusiastic dads.
Yeah. It's well, you commented on that even when we were in Edinburgh, didn't you? The dads were really out in force.
There was some amazing dad action on display, really, really getting into it. Dad's there with sort of 3 teenage girls kind of holding their jackets, taking their Instagram photos for them with the stage behind them, and wearing their Travis Kelce football shirts all at the same time. It was very impressive. It was inspirational.
Well, even the dads went in costume. I love that. So it wasn't even like they were just there to hold the kids' bags. Like, if you're wearing a like Travis Kelce shirt, you've participated.
Yeah, you're into it a little bit.
You've bought in.
I'm sure they sort of feigned reluctance to go. Yeah.
No. Okay, so shall we go... Oh, no, I want to go back, but I just want to ask about Paramore. Because we've done an emo episode, and again, sitting here are 3 genuinely enormous fans of Paramore.
Mm-hmm.
And when you guys said you were going, the other thing I thought was, I hate you're going to see Paramore.
Yeah.
They're like, I would have paid for that alone.
Well, I did have to justify the ticket price to myself in my head by saying that, like, a third of the price was for Paramore.
Yeah.
Which was totally justified. And I have to say they were... I mean, it's not surprising that they played incredibly. They are just a force. You know, Hayley Williams is a force of nature on her own.
I love her.
And as a band, they're just really powerful. But not only are they a great band that can perform well live, they really... took on the role of being a support act really well. And some bands are really bad at being a support act. They kind of expect the crowd to really know who they are, when realistically, you know, you have to be a little bit humble and know that this is not your crowd. And so they were really kind of welcoming to the crowd, wanting people to get into their music, you know, calling out the bigger songs, being like, you might know this one if you do, sing along, but also, like, if you've never heard of us before, then please go check out. I mean, you know, they were really engaging, and they sung some of the best songs. They sang The Only Exception, which probably made me cry before Taylor Swift had even come on. Misery Business, I, jumped out of my seat, and all the people around me were just having to put up with all my head banging. Like, they were all just, sitting there what is going on?
Because this is the thing that... And this is a segue into the origins of our interest in Taylor Swift. To me, when Paramore were announced as the support act, that in my head I thought, but we're old. We know who Paramore are. We were there with them, you know, years and years ago. And my interest in Taylor Swift feels relatively recent. But am I right in thinking Taylor Swift and Hayley Williams are basically contemporaries of each other?
Yes, they both grew up in the kind of music scene and the country music scene almost together, and they actually performed together last night at Wembley. In that surprise song section, Taylor brought Hayley Williams on and said that Hayley was one of her earliest music friends, and they're basically roughly the same age. And I think Hayley Williams had probably started slightly earlier because she started in rock music at about 14 or 15. Yeah. But Taylor also started very early, and so they were really good friends. And if you listen to some of the earlier albums, you'll hear Taylor Swift songs that sound like Paramore, and you'll hear Paramore songs that sound a little bit like Taylor Swift.
Actually, that's fair on reflection.
Yeah.
Because how old is, and I'm directing this to Ben, who I know will know the answer, how old is Taylor Swift right now?
She is 34.
Ben, when's her birthday?
The 13th of December.
Oh my god.
1989, of course.
Oh, right. Wait, Ben, would Taylor Swift be your mastermind topic?
Well, you've actually accidentally produced an excellent pun there. Because that is the name of one of her songs that she performs as part of the Eras tour.
Oh, of
Mastermind,
course.
yeah.
All over in some of the fandom at the moment, particularly on Reddit, you have fans trying to guess the specific content of what she's going to say, sing, where, and who's going to be in the audience each night in a game which is called Mastermind after the song.
The layers of this.
Oh, I know.
You're right, I do really like that song. That was not intentional. Whoa. Okay, so the origins of Taylor, and I feel we probably need to start with Ben, whose interaction with her must start the earliest. Ben, how and when did you discover Taylor Swift? And talk us through that journey.
It was a long time ago. And we should point that out just to underline how amazing it is that Taylor Swift has been at the top of her game for this long. So I remember the very first time I heard one of Taylor Swift's songs. I had a part-time job on a Saturday in a cafe, and I remember being there mopping the floor of the cafe at the end of the day, and because all the customers had gone by that point, we had the radio turned up, and they played Love Story by Taylor Swift. And I stopped and I listened, and I thought, this is not really like anything I have heard before. And then, of course, once you've heard of something like that, you keep on hearing it everywhere. You start seeing references, and it was shortly followed up by a song called "You Belong with Me." I can't remember actually which one was released first, but that was the next one that I stumbled across. It started from there, but of course at that point she was just a country artist, and nobody could have suspected at that point that she would have transcended so many different genres, and arguably now she sort of transcended even the concept of music and maybe even humanity. I might be getting a little bit carried away. But I feel like she and I have almost been through different stages of life together. You know, when you're 17 years old, you're a really impressionable age. Actually, they've done some studies about how people rate different songs versus how old they were when the song was released. And that is pretty much the peak age. So I was and all of us were at the most impressionable age to pick up on Taylor Swift at the start. But it's just been incredible following every stage of her journey ever since then. And let's be honest, right? I have not loved immediately everything that Taylor Swift has done. And she has had high points and low points in her career. She's had high points and low points in her life, of course, and they've been well documented in gossip newspapers and in the tabloids and online and everything. But as an example, so when she released Reputation, the album, not going to lie, I thought it was pretty bad.
So wrong.
However,
It's all right, Maddie.
other people...
We're going to come to you.
That was their highlight of her musical career so far. Should just add for reference, it has grown a lot on me since, and I now think it's like a part of a really important part of her journey and of the catalogue. Not to mention that on stage, the music from Reputation is just stunning, and the way it's performed, it's amazing.
But it caught you as a teenage boy, which is really interesting because, like, generally speaking, apart from the dads at the tour, like, is it fair to say a lot of people would think Taylor Swift's kind of a girly thing? Or like that, I don't know, her music is... because she's talking about relationships from a female perspective and speaking very, very consistently about her relationship with men or with boys. You connected with it, but as a teenage boy. I was just like, I wonder what it was that got you.
So I think her following is much more diverse than a lot of other artists, and perhaps more than a lot of other people might realise.
Which is awesome.
But I think it just caught me in a way. It showed me, and she showed me, that it's okay to just feel the things you're feeling, be expressive about them, and like... Oh, could you swear on the podcast?
Yes.
Just fucking be yourself. Be yourself. Everyone else is already taken. Don't try and be them. You do you. And there was something just really, that really hit me about that I've just never seen before or since.
You also have quite a thing for country music. I don't know whether that came before or after Taylor Swift, but I think the style of the early Taylor albums and the country music style just kind of suits you.
Yeah, I did go to the Eras tour with sort of boots, jeans, white open shirt, and a cowboy hat. So that was the era I was going for.
Got it. And then, Maddie, it would have probably been you getting captured by the Taylor Swift phenomenon. How did this happen?
Well, I also remember hearing Love Story for the first time, but I don't think that's what sparked the obsession. I definitely remember very vividly seeing the music video for Love Story, which was really well put together and I think did kind of catapult that song. But that was when we were
on
still
a balcony, right? In a kind of princess dress.
Yeah. It's, all Romeo and Juliet and that. And it's very beautiful. I remember really enjoying that song. But then, didn't really keep up with her until I remember really getting into the Red album. And that would have been, I think, just after university. Mm-hmm. So maybe I'd kind of gotten over a little bit of my more intense emo rock phase and things. Ben's looking at me.
2012.
Yeah. So end of university for us.
Yeah.
And I remember being in my first job, and it may be that this was a year after it had come out, I don't know. But I remember being in my first job and listening to that album, like I lived in a kind of shared house, and I put it on in the kitchen while I was like doing a million dishes that I had left for, days at a time, and listening to the Red album. And I think I was just captivated by it being just like really good pop music. Like I think sometimes we don't appreciate pop music as like an artistic medium, but like if you do pop music really, really well, it can be really excellent. I just really got into that album and really loved it. And I think
that album is an absolute cracker.
Yeah.
And it was so different from what she'd done before. It was the thing which catapulted her from being at that point, famous international country artist to being a famous international superstar.
Yeah, pop star.
It was her first pure pop album. And she started working with a whole bunch of different pop producers. Let's be under no illusion here. Her progression from being a country artist to being a pop star to being a global icon has been really deliberate.
Yeah.
She knows, and she figured out very early on that if you back yourself into a corner, you get forgotten about. And the way that she has reinvented herself every 2, 3, or 4 years throughout her whole career, it has been calculated, but oh my God, it's been successful.
Yeah. Yeah, so I think I would probably say that the pop stuff is what drew me in.
Yeah.
Like really pure, fun, danceable music that I just really enjoyed.
And has she had you since then?
Yeah, I would say not consistently. As you said, like she kind of disappeared for a little while and then she kind of came back. And so I think it's been on this latest... I loved Reputation, which maybe you'll talk about since you went to the tour, which I'd love to hear about. But it's been on this like latest trajectory, probably since Midnights and then to the Eras tour, that I've like rediscovered that love. I think I loved Red, I loved 1989, and I love Reputation. I actually kind of dipped in interest during the COVID years, during the Folklore Evermore era, which is, I know, slightly controversial because a lot of people, that's their absolute favourites, and I do love those albums. But yeah, I then rebuilt that interest again with Midnights, and then up till now. So yeah.
Well, Taylor and I have had a sporadic relationship, which is probably the most different from Ben's consistent fandom of her, which is that kind of like you, Maddie, I was sort of ignoring her for years because we were into emo and like really quite hard rock, and I sort of knew she was there, but I had relegated her to, not for me.
Yeah.
Perhaps, obviously now, wrongly. And so sort of deliberately ignored her for a very long time. And then was given tickets to Reputation. My boss rang up on the day and said, I have these 2 tickets for this Taylor Swift concert tonight at the O2.
Lucky.
Do you want to go? Yeah, and I called downstairs to Petra and was like, hey, Petra, do you want to go see Taylor Swift? And she was like, sure. So the 2 least prepared people for this ever, I was like, something called Reputation. I don't know what this is, but let's go. We're not busy. And I was like, what is this? Because it was packed. Nothing like the footage from the Eras tour. But we rocked up knowing basically nothing. I don't think I'd even listened to the album. But I remember thinking this was a very, very slick show. Like it had been really well put together. She felt like someone who was not prepared to like miss a beat. She would look at because the cameras were positioned in such a way that it was almost like she was performing for it to be filmed for like a live concert. And actually a criticism of her I had at the time has been rectified, I think, by Eras, which is that she still felt at that point a little bit stilted, a little too choreographed and not robotic, but because she's not really the world's greatest dancer. This isn't like watching Britney or J-Lo or, the dancing's not part of it. So her movements were really like, and now I turn and look, and now I turn and head dip. And it felt every motion was choreographed. But you could clearly see you were dealing with a perfectionist. And some of the songs were real bangers, and I was like...
I mean, Reputation is so good.
Yeah!
And we should say that Reputation marked another one of her kind of regenerations. And she was very clearly, I mean, as we said, lots has been talked about in the media around her, like, relationship with the industry and her relationship with, things that have happened with the media. And she was coming out there to say, I am not just this baby country artist. I am not just this pop princess. I have something to prove and, you know, some anger. and I'm ready to show it.
and she was very clearly moving her career on at that point. She even says in one of the songs, the old Taylor can't come to the phone right now.
Yes.
Why? Because she's dead.
Yeah. And actually,
How much clearer a sign do you need that she's trying to reinvent herself again?
well, she got me at that point because I thought, wait a second, this is not what I thought it was going to be. And perhaps I have wrongly ignored Taylor Swift. And if this is the vibe now, this is so much closer to my vibe. But then sadly, kind of forgot her again for another, whatever the distance was between Reputation and Midnights, she fell back off my radar. And then the classic Taylor Swift story, it was the summer of Alicia's ginormous breakup and life decision. And it was comparable to now understanding the whole Joe Alwyn relationship that I then went and looked into. It's clearly Taylor deciding, do I take this very long and meaningful relationship to the stage of like, do I marry this guy? Is this is either going one way, or am I now starting to step out of this? And I listened to that album that summer.
Do you mean to say it's going to be forever or it will go down in flames?
Yes, exactly. But I listened to this and thought, oh my God, she's speaking to me.
This was Midnights.
This is Midnights.
Yeah.
Yeah, I had literally not interacted with Taylor Swift since that Reputation tour. Then listened to Midnights and thought, I see what everybody's talking about. I understand. And then that's been it.
I actually remember this. I remember you saying, oh my God, can we talk about Taylor Swift? Because I just listened to this album and, like, these lyrics, they're me. I don't know. How is she in my brain?
Yeah. So she got me she got Ben at 17. She got me at 32. And so if we talk about, like you said, the longevity of her career and the amount of time she has spent genuinely writing lyrics that connect with people, that's wild. She managed to get teenager and midlife crisis. Well done, Taylor.
I know. I think that maybe brings us on to what is the strength of Taylor Swift? Like, what is her biggest strength that she has? Because you've hinted at she's not the greatest dancer in the world. She's fine. She does well. She performs well. But she's not like a superstar dancer. She also has a beautiful voice, but she's not a belter. She's not a Tina Turner or she's not going to go down in history as one of the greatest voices.
No, she's not the greatest vocalist.
Nor, I think it's fair to say, is she the world's greatest songwriter. Of the music side, we'll get into the lyrics, but a lot of the songs, particularly sort of the songs which you find on the back half of her albums, the structures are relatively simple.
Yeah.
Some throws in some uncommon keys, particularly later she mixes it up. I think it was on either Folklore or Evermore. She has 2 songs which are in 7 time rather than 4 or 3 time. But there's nothing massively innovative there.
Yeah, this isn't Queen or something.
But what is it then?
Yes, what is it then? Yes, because we've said she can't really dance that well. Her singing's all right. The music is all right. So yeah, you're right.
I think there's 2 things. I think number one, and Ben can give his opinion what it is, but I think number one is just her ability to connect to people through her lyrics and to take an understanding of what it is to be human at any different stage of life, at any different potential moment. Or, you said about, you're making a massive decision about your love life, but then equally we're talking about like early love and these moments of darkness. At any particular moment in life, she's able to connect to what it is to be human and turn that into lyrics that just connect with you as a human. And that is a real skill that not many people have.
Absolutely. Yeah. I couldn't agree more. Her ability to take feelings and express them in words that hit you right in the middle of your heart is completely unparalleled.
Yeah. She's taken a real risk as well, though, which either she's a complete genius, which I actually think that she is, and has realised that voyeurism sells, or she's just been incredibly open and transparent, because part of the stuff I found fascinating is that this is all from her real life. She's not afraid to write music that completely parallels her own emotional life, her own breakups. I know people, Ben, this probably includes you, who know exactly what song relates to what boy, or like, you know, am I right? Like, people know.
People do. Or at least, you know, what I find interesting is that people think they know. And I do wonder sometimes whether actually they might just be completely wrong.
Probably, but you know what I mean? Listening to it, you feel like you are listening to somebody being genuinely, not like an overshare, but you do think, oh, Taylor, that's so personal. Oh, poor you.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think this gets into something that I'd really actually like to ask you guys about, because for me, I always think of Taylor as being somebody who, outside of her music, she is not particularly open. She doesn't do a whole load of extra media or interviews. I mean, she doesn't really need to now. Her socials, she's fairly guarded and, you know, turns off all the comments and stuff. Very rarely puts out stuff officially about sort of like, just let you see sort of really openly and plainly who she is outside of her music. The route that all of us have into her life, almost the only route, is through her music. So we look so closely and we study her music, and when new songs come out, we look at every lyric and the way it's sung to try and figure out, like, how's she doing? Like, what's going on in her life? Like, almost, what's she actually been up to? She's an enigma outside of her music. So the reason we get so obsessed with the music is because that's the way that we see into her life.
Do you think that's deliberate? Sorry.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think that is her second strength, is her deliberateness and some people see it as being, you know, calculated and very, business-like. But I think that is her other strength, which is making very, very clear decisions about her career in a business-like way. And that includes, how much do you share through social media? How much do you give away of your life that's not through your music? And it is this real contrast between, like, not showing much of her real life in those kind of, like, in that parasocial relationship type way where people try and, like, understand you through
Twitter rants.
Yeah,
She's
exactly. No, exactly. But she keeps it all for the music, and that is a very, very clear business decision, and it really works. And I think she clearly has a really, really kind of powerful team around her now that know how to really know how to kind of make her successful, and it's clearly worked.
I like this idea of her commercial now, and I wish I could wax lyrical about my adoration of Taylor's music, of which, you know, I'm getting there, and there's a couple of albums where I was like, oh my god, Taylor, you are me. But I have really enjoyed uncovering this understanding of her as, like, basically a kind of Hermione-esque, like, A-type personality. She's a perfectionist, she works hard, she doesn't mess about, and she's at a point now where that's paid off. And I'm just like, you go, girl! Like, good for you!
Maybe she is a mastermind.
No, exactly.
Well, she's
love that song.
both a mastermind in that she has these crazy schemes and she puts out all these plans and whatever and brings it all together. But also she just bloody works hard. She is over 100 shows into the Eras tour. Each one is like 3 hours plus long. You know, there were articles about her, like, running marathons on treadmills while singing in order to train for the Eras tour. She is just so hardworking. That album came out right in the middle of the tour. Like, when did she have the time to write and record that? She never sleeps, clearly. She just works so hard.
No, I like this about her because we've entered an era of celebrity that is, whether it's just celebrities who had celebrity parents, or, you know, people who are celebrities because they're influencers at the right time. Whereas Taylor predates all of that, and she's managed, like you were saying, Ben, she's been really intelligent about how she rebrands herself, how she kind of changes her image or changes her musical genre up. And I'm like, she really does a lot. She puts a lot of thought into staying ahead and staying on top of the business. And I'm like, cool, I can respect that. Well done, you.
So we've talked about her lyrics, and we've talked about her persona, and we've talked about the fact that she just grafts and she really wants to be the best. I'll add one more thing to the list, which I think is really important, which is that she has, and this kind of comes slightly later in her career, she has started to find ways of mobilising her fan base for bigger, more important causes. And so in the documentary film that she made, Miss Americana, you see her penning and filming the music video for a song called "You Need to Calm Down," which Madeline is now pointing to her bracelet.
My rainbow bracelet.
What does it say?
Just says "Calm Down" with a rainbow.
And that was a song which it took a lot of bravery to release, which is really supportive of the LGBTQ community in the US. And then more, but that's just one example. More recently, she has, and you'll know this unless you've sort of been living under a rock, she has re-recorded swathes of her historic music, and this has never really been seen before. And we won't go to sort of the legal ins and outs of why she's done this, but she ultimately, because of a load of backroom commercial dealings, lost the rights to the original recordings of her own music. So she was still the songwriter. She still owned the concept of the song, but not the recordings themselves. So she has now re-released 4 full albums of music. In between, it should be added, doing all of the Era's tour and writing new music and everything that goes with it. She didn't need to do that, but she chose to because she wants to be the best, and she's either accidentally or deliberately produced another cause that people will get behind.
Yeah, and everyone who's a real fan will not listen to those original albums. They'll only listen to the re-recordings.
Yeah. But generally speaking, though, the cultural power that she has and the following that she has is wild, especially at a time when, like, we've got an election year in the US, an election year in the UK, and every time I see footage from these packed out stadiums for the Eras tour, like on the one hand, there's some stat of like how much of the world's population has been to the Eras tour, and it's quite a lot. And on the other, I could not get a ticket for love nor money. I was like, how is this happening? But when you see these images of everybody who's at the Eras tour, I'm thinking, like, not even a fifth of this population at the stadium watched the most recent, like, Channel 4 leaders debate or something. Do you know what I mean? The engagement she has is wider than, like, they were saying in America not a lot of people were following the Trump trial. But people knew what the set list was for the Eras tour.
Well, also, in the world of social media and the internet, actually, media and music in general has separated a lot more. Like, generally, people who are very successful now are not as successful as they were 30, 40 years ago when everyone listened to the same 5 radio stations. And so actually, nowadays, to be in the top 10 artists, you need way fewer people interested in you to do so, because we're all just scattered listening to our own kind of subgenres and different areas of the internet, in our bubbles. And she is just like burst out of those bubbles.
Yeah, which is what makes it even more impressive, that to produce this 160-date global sold-out tour, it harks back to U2 and the Beatles, and those kind of mass events that you think about with music decades ago.
Yeah. Do you guys want to see, or do you think it would be a positive thing if Taylor was more political? Because, like, I was watching, who's the star of the new Bridgerton series?
Nicola Coughlan.
Yes, thank you. And she was like, I have a platform right now, and so I'm going to talk about, like, why we should have a ceasefire.
Yeah.
Or, being...
You're not going to do her accent?
No, because her accent's so beautiful and I'd mess it up. And, oh, no, my Irish accent is no good. But I thought, like, good for you. And she does have a platform right now, but the platform Taylor Swift has is like, and in Miss Americana, she talked a little bit about, I think she was speaking out about being a bit more Democrat leaning and against
There was a
really
particular
right-wing
Republican candidate in her state.
Yeah, I think it was the race for the governor of Tennessee or something.
Yeah.
Yeah, and she took a stand against it.
Yes.
And kind of documented that. But do you think it would be powerful for Taylor to do that more? Or do you think... Because people like Beyonce perform at like big... You know, when there used to be the Obama fundraisers and all of this... Do you think that would be responsible of her, or do you think it would totally ruin her magic?
I think, unfortunately, she's in a situation where she can't. And this is part of the calculated business side of her, right? Even in that documentary, she had people around her telling her not to speak about it, partly for her own safety, but also just because she is trying to... For better or for worse, she's trying to appeal to the whole world. And so she does, like she keeps her life guarded, except for in her music, she's clearly chosen at a blanket level not to speak about that stuff in general. And I think people are completely fine and within their rights to criticise that. But I do also completely understand, like, from a business point of view and from her own kind of level of safety at that kind of high level, it's probably pretty impossible at this point for her to come out with those statements. But it is a shame, because you're right, somebody with a platform like that could make a real impact, but also potentially would lose their own impact in the longer term by doing so. Yeah. So it's a hard one.
Yeah. Okay, so she doesn't speak out on these big political issues, but I would be fascinated to know what you guys think, and especially you, Ben, who's followed this, you know, has followed her forever and does genuinely know, like, which boyfriend each song relates to. What do you think about how, like, openly, like, revelatory she is, albeit in retrospect, about each relationship she has? Like, would you date Taylor Swift? Or are you like, oh my... Actually, I know the answer to that. Or would you be like, sorry, Matt. Or would you be like, oh my God, the next album's going to be about me?
So it's really tough, isn't it? And this is something that even people who aren't enormous Swifties like to hypothesize about. So I actually don't follow too much the ins and outs of, like, her relationships. You know, Tom Hiddleston this and Joe Alwyn that and Matty Healy there. It adds, like, good context around some of the songs. But I think, yeah, you'd be like, as a guy, you'd be like pretty worried about what might sort of end up there that can't be directly attributed to you. You could never sort of openly dispute it, because just, you know, it could be about anybody, except of course everyone would know that it's about you. Yeah, it'd be a really risky business.
The biggest ones that come up to mind, I mean, immediately I was thinking of All Too Well, which is her, like, epic, lyrical, beautiful song about a kind of doomed relationship, and it's very well known that it's about Jake Gyllenhaal. And I just can't imagine. I mean, it kind of ruined his reputation with a lot of people.
This is what I mean.
It completely, like, took him from being a very loved movie star to, oh, he was a lot older than her and he took advantage of her. And that song tells us all the ways in which he took advantage of this young pop star. Now we don't like Jake Gyllenhaal.
Yeah.
Like,
on the other hand, if Taylor Swift asked me on a date, I wouldn't say no.
I thought that was a given.
Pros and cons.
But, like, I thought, I don't want to sound like I'm calling her out for being, you know, not being brave and for not, you know, not using her platform to be political, because, man, it is brave to put out songs you know are going to get 1 billion downloads about, like, the guy who just dumped you. Or, you know, it's intense.
Wild. And you know what, actually, one of the best songs from the new album is about... And it's one of these cases where you're like, oh goodness, Taylor, are you okay? It's I Can Do It With a Broken Heart, where she literally sings about going on tour and performing even through the worst times, and when she's having a miserable time, still getting on stage and smiling and performing and doing it like it's her birthday every single day. Mm-hmm. And it's like, whoo, yeah, she's just she's gonna give you a show no matter what is going on in her life.
Yeah.
Yeah, that song was really... It was shocking listening to it the first few times, wondering yeah, like I'm worried about her. Like, clearly it's about the first leg of the Eras tour that she was doing in the US last year on the back of a bad breakup.
Is that the Joe breakup? Just to clarify, yeah.
And it sounds like a cry for help.
Yeah, and that is powerful, but so too is when we think about Taylor's relationship dynamics. There's a lot of this breakup material songs, but she manages also never to be a victim and to be really upfront about. And that's why I love Mastermind, that she's upfront about being she's quite intense.
Yeah.
As a girlfriend to have, maybe. I mean, I don't know, but she's really open about. Actually, probably some of her and her friends sat around and massively Instagram stalked someone, and then she worked out exactly how she was going to do this, and they would have pre-planned the text messages, and I thought, oh, we'd be friends.
I know.
Like, I just enjoy her as a friend.
Other song that
She'd
really
be good fun.
The other song that really brings that together is Blank Space, where it's like, okay, yeah, you know what you're doing. You're like, you would be really intense, but you also know that the guys really want you anyway, so it's okay.
She makes the bad boys good for a weekend.
Yeah.
Yeah. And outside of that, in between when she had finished the Eras tour first leg, and this is where I was like, all right, I'll follow the gossip stuff. I really enjoyed seeing her have a series of dinner catch-ups with Sophie Turner. Whoa, I would have paid money to listen to that conversation. Who had just broken up with Joe Jonas, right? And I thought, you just would want Taylor Swift as your mate. Like, you're going through a major divorce. I'd call Taylor. Yeah. I'd be like, Taylor, can we have some drinks?
So I've got a question for you guys. So as I've already said, I'm not hugely into the kind of gossipy celebrity culture side of it. But I've often wondered with these global international megastars, when it says so-and-so is dating so-and-so, so maybe it's Taylor Swift with, I don't know, Calvin Harris or somebody, so she's American and was mainly spending time in America, and he's British and was mainly spending time in Britain. When you are out on tour and you're recording in a different country and you just have stuff going on every day of the month, when it says you are dating a person, what does that actually mean? Because I know, when I was dating someone, I mean,
me,
yeah, you, what dating meant, we would go out for, dinner a couple of times a week, and stay over each other's houses a little bit, and go meet each other's parents. But of course, it's different when you're a celebrity. And so, what does dating a global celebrity actually mean in practice?
Oh my God, I wish I didn't know the answer to that, but I really do follow Taylor's dating life.
Excellent.
No, only in that period, not previously. So all the stuff about Tom Hiddleston and Jake Gyllenhaal and
Harry Styles.
I had forgotten, by the way, the number of people that she's been out with who are super famous. Harry Styles, yeah, all of that had passed me by. But the Travis Kelce, I think because it was off the back of the Midnights album, and I was seeing Taylor as a kind of contemporary, and I thought, oh, I'm so here to see her have a positive experience after Joe Alwyn. And I was following the Travis Kelce stuff. In answer to your question, Ben, about literally what do they do? Well, there was a lot of her going to his football games. That was good fun. And they did go out for dinner, and they were spotted in New York, spending time together. She had a bit of a break, didn't she, after that tour? Mm-hmm. Yeah, and they would date. They've been to music festivals together. What they do when she's physically out of the country, I have no idea. I mean, what do they do?
He's come to some of the talk nights, and I guess they managed to meet up in between everything else that's going on.
But when we were dating, our idea of going on a date wasn't you coming and watching me doing a meeting at work. That's her job. So do they just spend a Saturday evening just making some steak together and drinking some wine, and then sit down and watch a movie and stay over and have sex and whatever?
Yeah.
Or is it just is my understanding of what dating is just completely wrong if you're a
No, I don't know. We can
that.
only speculate, because you're so right about the whole job thing. I was saying, well, she went to his football games and that's his job. So I don't know, but certainly from the Miss Americana documentary, when she was saying she was talking a little bit about the start of the Joe Alwyn relationship, and that did seem a bit more like she was taking a little bit of a career break. Everything was a bit quieter. She was trying to hide away a bit, and they were going on country walks and cooking and hanging out, or co-writing music together. And that I thought was more realistic to like what we're thinking of as like dating someone, whereas she seems to now she's like a global superstar with a global superstar, albeit I did not know that man's name.
No.
I'm so on the side of all those social media videos where women are like, she's really helped this guy's career. That guy's
it's not true.
I know, but I didn't know who he was.
The other thing I don't understand is when you are somebody with that level of fame, how you can live anything resembling a normal life, and keeping things a secret. Like, we now know that Taylor Swift was spending a lot of time over the course of a few years in London with Joe Alwyn, but it's still not really known like exactly where they were living. And you didn't see videos on social media every day of someone spotting her in the queue at Gales, or like going and buying a new cabinet from B&Q or something.
Yeah, I don't know.
They have a team around them that are there and hired just to protect them and to give them a normal life but hidden away, I think.
It's a good point though, because she sounds like in a lot of her music that she knows London really well. And also that on Midnights, when she reflects on their relationship, that she spent time like hanging out with his friends and his family in quite a low-key way. Or like she was like having mates round, or like she was going to a club or a bar with all of them, or a pub. And
but when they went out to the Black Dog pub, like, did anybody actually see them there?
I don't know.
No, it's impossible to know.
All
right, I think this brings us nicely, having talked about dating, onto our first of our categories, the thermometer. How hot on a thermometer scale of 0 to 100 would we classify not just Taylor Swift the person, that's part of it, but also Taylor Swift the phenomenon?
Yeah, yes, you're right. We won't just objectify her. We'll also how hot is Taylor Swift fandom?
As like
how hot is that?
That's funny. I've never heard you objectify anybody on your podcast before.
And as a regular listener, Ben, I'm surprised. You must skip this category every time. Okay, guys, how hot is Taylor Swift?
I'm like, on my degrees scale, I'm going a very strong 85.
How high does your thermometer go? I haven't done this
100.
100. So Taylor Swift, the person, she is hot. Let's be real about it. She is hot. Taylor Swift, the phenomenon. I mean, right now, you're going to need a new thermometer, guys. You're going to need one of those like laser ones that they would like point at the center of the sun to figure out how hot that is. That is the scale of the phenomenon right now.
The only reason that I don't give a full 100 is she is incredibly sexy and she uses it well, but she is on stage. She's very clear when she's being sexy, sexy Taylor. And that's during Reputation, and it's during, some of Midnights. And then there's other moments where she is very clearly being not sexy Taylor. And I am just, the, fun girl. And she's got this side of her that is quite nerdy. And, you can tell that probably, at school, she wasn't the sexiest girl in school. She was the weird one off writing her own music who went to country festivals, and you can still see that part of her. And I think actually that makes me like her a whole lot more. But she kind of puts on the sexiness. I don't think it comes natural to her. I think it's like she's learnt how to do it, but it is not inherent in her personality.
Yeah.
I think.
Here I have to offset you guys because I know you guys think this. And Taylor Swift just doesn't do it for me in terms of hotness. She's great and everything, but I'm on the more I gotta give her a 30%. I don't know why, but it's and maybe it's performance style. We talked a lot on our emo episode about how much we love performers and the hotness of kind of performance. And, I just can't put her up there with the current sort of level of Miley Cyrus. Oh, who is my queen? Love her.
I need to show you the photo from the Cardiff Instagram post that she put out, and it is. I was gonna die.
All right,
she's so hot.
Or even I don't know, but and it comes back to what you were saying though about she's learned to be a bit sexier, but it isn't natural to her. It's not.
No.
She looked uncomfortable back when I saw the first Reputation tour, and now she's kind of getting there. But it's. And I love to see her evolving in that way, but it's not her like natural inclination. She doesn't sort of exude performance sexiness. It's not the easiest thing, I think, for her.
Yeah.
Strange though it may sound, I don't actually often think of her. I don't typically think of her as being a sexy person.
Yeah.
And part of that for me is because in my mind, she has now moved out of the leagues of anything that is actually human.
Yes, you think she's basically an alien.
I absolutely love her, but in my mind, she's something far bigger than something that is actually human.
But so it's like she's become such an uber celeb, and she's almost become a character, right? Taylor in herself.
Almost,
she's not accessible anymore.
What I enjoyed about the tour was there were the moments of performance, and then there were the moments of connection, and where you did feel like you were just seeing a real person. And sometimes, now that I have been able to kind of spend more time watching the, people filming from the crowd and those like quieter moments where you're like, see her just like, she's in between songs and she has to like go and like blow her nose and like compose herself and be ready for the next one. And you see those moments and it's like, there are moments of realness. And I think that comes across in probably like the surprise songs and things where she gets a moment just to kind of sit and talk at a piano. And so I think there's a real mixture between the songs where she's like, performance Taylor and those moments where you at least feel like you're seeing the real Taylor.
Yeah. But otherwise I have to agree with both of you guys on like, in terms of like, how hot is like a Taylor Swift ticket right now?
Oh, Jesus.
How hot is she as a phenomenon? Like, I don't think there's been a bigger deal.
It's printed on has spontaneously combusted.
Yes, agreed. All right, and then we always think about how badass is something.
Yeah.
Like, how badass, you guys, is Taylor Swift?
I'm going to go like pretty badass. I'm not putting this in our categories of like, when we're talking about Helm's Deep and Game of Thrones or whatever. But in terms of, what we've already spoken about, her like dedication to what she's doing on stage, she commands that stage now. Maybe it was less true in the past, but she has learnt and she commands the stage, which is absolutely badass. She just, these huge stadiums, she can just stand in front of just herself, or maybe with like a couple of backing dancers and just like take over the space. That is incredibly badass.
That is badass.
Yeah, this is what I liked about Britney, and that came out a lot on when Britney's now been being more outspoken about her kind of performance conditions and how she liked to get ready for tour. And she was like, she would do the choreography. She would train the backing dancers. She would pick the backing dancers. It was her vision. It was a whole thing. And you can see the sort of creative, that is badass. Like you say, like Taylor has got command of her machine.
Yeah.
She's got command of her performance, but she's also got command of the machine. And I love that. And I'm also so here for the like slightly older celebrity renaissance that we're having now in performance. Like, I loved it that J-Lo is still as like hot stuff as she is, and she's like, what, 52, 53 or something? Beyonce, you still can't get a ticket to her like gig. She's sold out. Taylor, she's older than us. And that makes me so happy.
I think people forget because they think, Taylor Swift fans are all 8-year-old girls. And you're like, no, she's 33.
Yeah.
She's 34. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's something we haven't actually talked about is the how she has managed to stay at the top of her game. Like, she has fans now who were like not even like alive when she started making music.
Easily, yeah.
There's and that's incredible. The fact that she has somebody who's now rapidly approaching their mid-30s is appealing to folks who are just entering their teenage years. I mean, that's something special.
Yeah. And we were talking about this with the power of some of the kind of teen phenomenon things we were speaking about, whether it was Divergent or the OC or these things that you can now access on streaming platforms, or you can just get the book from your school library. A lot of the teenagers engaging with this weren't alive when the thing first came out, when we were teenagers. Yeah. And I'm like, yay, these things are still cool.
Yeah.
So you're right, little 8-year-olds going to Taylor Swift, you're like, honey, I've been here a lot longer.
Yeah.
Come on, you're new here, but good for you.
Yeah. I'm afraid there was like a lot of stuff that you missed while you were away, kind of like being born.
Yeah.
Some of the great, I do feel that some of the great material in the earlier albums now kind of does get unfairly overlooked.
She didn't even play anything from debut.
She didn't play anything from her debut album, and after she reshuffled the set list. for the European leg of the tour. So they had to cut a few things from last year to make space for all the stuff from the Tortured Poets department. And she only sang one song from what I consider to be her best album, which is Speak Now.
Yeah.
Really, only one song from Speak Now?
The Speak Now era is now one song long.
Which
it's just
one?
Enchanted.
Oh my God. Yeah, that does seem like quite a cut. But do you guys know what I mean? Like, I feel like we grew up when we were, like, teenagers and stuff, at this time when to be a like hot celebrity, you had to be between 15 and 21.
Yeah, you remember like the X Factor, where the over 25s category
It's like the mature
was the
category.
old people.
Yeah. No,
And we all thought they were really old and they would never win.
Yeah, and they would never win.
They did
That's
never
exactly
win.
Right. Yeah.
They just ended up with Louis Walsh, just kind of away in a castle somewhere, and they came
And
and
that just
lasted
like
for
would
4
never
weeks.
happen now. If you were having that category now, it would be like the over 40s, maybe.
Yeah, but because of that, because that felt like such an entrenched part of celebrity culture, like we grew up with like the big sort of people in the charts had come off of High School Musical.
Yeah.
It was when like Bieber was young, like all of this. It was literally like teenagers in command of celebrity culture. And now those people have aged. And I'm like, yes, I can enjoy Miley now in her 30s
But
rather than...
it's just another way that Taylor Swift has broken the music industry.
And she is badass.
Yes, it's badass. That's exactly it. She has
And
held on.
we cannot give her any more like badass compliment than that.
All right, last category.
Oh, sorry. Obsession fuel.
Oh my goodness.
This is kind of like when we're saying how hot she is. But I mean, like, Maddie, how long have we talked for? Just give us an update
We're
here.
already at an hour and 10 minutes. This
Okay.
is coming on to be one of our longest episodes almost.
Right, which is comparable to when you and I sit down and talk about, like, Lord of the Rings.
Yeah.
So this has clearly got...
Cracking set of episodes, by the way, girls.
Oh,
Thanks,
thank you.
Ben. we know you could have been a guest on those as well. We're like, we should say that quite a lot of our content Ben actually does know about as well. But yeah, so when we think about like how full is the obsession fuel tank for us, for Taylor Swift, but also like worldwide, how possible is it to like be an absolute Taylor Swift nerd?
I would make a stronger case on the obsession fuel category than either of the other two.
How full is the tank?
The tank exploded. the tank was overfilled, and as a result, the rocket didn't leave the launch pad because there was too much fuel. The community who follow Taylor's every move is astonishing. We're not just talking about like a couple of people in some like weird corner of the internet. We are talking about millions of people who hang on her every movement, her every lyric, people who know everything about, you know, all of the tours and stuff inside out. So I talked a bit earlier about the surprise songs in the Eras tour, and I talked a bit about the costumes. So there are actually, for most of the costumes she wears during the tour, there are several variants of each one.
Many variants.
Slightly different colours and stuff. Usually the same kind of style, but different variants. And people will be tracking religiously, like which outfit specifically she wears on which night, and then we'll think, sometimes correctly, that is in itself a clue as to something that's happening or going to happen next. It's been observed that there are now exactly 22 songs from her recorded catalogue that have never been performed live. And of course, the number 22 is really significant. It was
Tell us how, Ben.
Well, it's one of the better songs from the Red album. So her favourite number is number 13. That was the day of her birthday. But so things like that. There is no end to the level to which people are obsessed with everything that Taylor does.
And it does cause some problems online. People convince themselves that their theories are true. It's almost like the obsession over the last season of Game of Thrones, where everyone was so obsessed with trying to work out what was going to happen that then they were slightly disappointed when things didn't happen.
You and I had better theories than what actually ended up happening.
And so everyone was completely convinced that the 100th performance, which was in Liverpool, and on the 13th of June, which is 13 her number, also June, which is her 6th-month birthday from the December 13th, 100th performance of the Eras Tour, everyone was completely convinced that she was going to be announcing something big. They'd found clues in her various Instagram posts and in her different outfit patterns that she'd worn, and some like numbers up on the screen during the tour were like showing things. Everyone was absolutely riled up for something to happen on that date.
Even to the point where during a couple of the performances, actually since she arrived in the UK, they've had some problems with the reliability of the big screen at the front. And this apparently is also a clue, because it was that corner of the screen which cut out during that song, and she must be trying to tell us something, because she never tells us anything, like, out in the open. It's all coded.
And it turns out nothing was happening on that date. Nothing happened. There was no Reputation Taylor's version. There was no Album 12. There was no nothing. And it was all just made up in people's heads.
But we will do it all over again the next time.
I think that's been a really good demonstration right there of the level of obsession fuel. I tried to do an experiment earlier, which is that, so Luke knows we're doing this evening. And so I said to him, Luke, what do you know about Taylor Swift? Like, if anything, to see just how far has she penetrated? Even, like, is anyone impervious to Taylor Swift? And Luke said, oh, she's got that song, Bad Blood with Kendrick Lamar. I was
of all the songs!
Of all the songs. But, I mean, she's got this habit of bringing in, it means that she brings in and collaborates with people who, even if you're not a Taylor fan, you may then come to her music by way of, like, liking someone else. I was like, ooh, clever. And then he also said that an unfortunate low moment of dissertation supervising was that someone at Balliol at Oxford a couple of years ago did their English dissertation on Taylor Swift. Taylor Swift and romantic poetry.
I hope they got a very high grade.
Well, Luke was marking it, so I'm not sure. But he was like, Jesus Christ. I mean, she's made it there.
Yeah, she's made it.
You know.
I'm excited to see, as the years and decades go on, actually what it is about Taylor Swift that will endure. And we were talking about this the other day. Artists who were making music in the 70s and 80s, like, someone of our generation, often like, yeah, you're aware of them, but you might know sort of 2 or 3 of their biggest songs. But there have been so many incarnations of Taylor Swift now. Who or what will it be that does stay in the history books?
Yeah, that's right. And what will her, if you then had to put together like a Taylor Swift greatest hits, which is kind of what the Eras tour has been.
Yes.
But imagine boil it down to like your typical 10 tracks on a CD.
Oh, it would be too hard.
Okay,
It's so varied.
See, I'm so old that I think it would have to be like a 2-disc CD. But you know what I mean? Like, there used to be these things.
So, to help us round off, what would you put on the CD? What would you gamble now is going to be the stuff that will give us staying power, or the ones that are special to you?
I think there's one obvious one, which is, I think, her biggest hit worldwide, which is Shake It Off. I just think it is her biggest song that she's ever done. It's the most recognisable. It comes on, everyone dances. I know for a lot of Swifties, it's not their favourite song because they prefer the more lyrical or the more deep songs. But I think it is the one that will be remembered because everyone knows it. It is not just the Swifties that know it. It is literally everyone in the world. For Ben's 30th birthday, we were in the middle of lockdown, and I wanted to do something special for his birthday, and I got all of our friends remotely to film themselves lip syncing to Shake It Off and put together a video of it. I mean, full length, the whole of the song, got everyone to lip sync and to dance, and it was super, super fun. And to be fair, the atmosphere in the stadium playing that song, it was fantastic. I think it is just a huge, huge, huge banger.
It is a certified banger.
It might be too hard to put together the greatest hits, because the point about Taylor is everybody has their own playlist of her songs that work for them. So, like, I don't like her big, I'm not a big Shake It Off fan. I find that song kind of annoying. Or what's the one where everybody did the videos and inserted the goat sound?
I knew you were trouble. I love that song.
like some of these that would obviously be on the greatest hits CD, but I just have to skip because they're too, like, their earworminess has been there for too long.
Yeah.
But I still like the bangers. So, like, I like Blank Space, style.
Yes.
All the Reputation tracks. But maybe that's because I
Karma.
Oh, such a tune. And I like Taylor in her slightly like bad bitch era.
Yeah.
So I would end up with like a different greatest hits list than like anyone else. Like Ben, well, what would you put? What would your greatest hits list be?
So I'll call out three things. I was actually already going to say I Knew You Were Trouble. And because, so in the run up to going to see the concert, we did almost like a final cramming session of listening to the 11 albums in the 11 days. Preceding going to the concert. I know, right? And we listened to them all in order. And so going through the debut album, Fearless Speak Now, it's quite country that starts to cross over. And then you get to Red. And even I Knew You Were Trouble is something like the third or fourth track. And it just hits you. It was so different to anything that she had done. For me, that song represented the turning point at which she became a pop powerhouse. So I had to call that out. There's always a place in my heart, and now forever will be, for Exile. And I'd say it's underappreciated, but especially now having seen it performed live. And then the final one I would have to call out is the one with lyrics on the bracelet that I'm wearing at the moment.
What is it?
Which Maddie made for me, which says, "You belong with me."
Oh, I actually like that song too. Yeah. That's a nice song. You guys, I feel fluffy inside and warm.
I know. I want to give one last fluffy anecdote.
Yes,
which is
please
that
do.
I did walk down the aisle, along with Alicia, my maid of honour, to a string quartet version of Wildest Dreams.
You did?
So, yeah.
It had Bridgerton vibes.
It was Bridgerton.
Did it predate Bridgerton?
No, it was from the first series of Bridgerton. It was an arrangement from Bridgerton.
It was cool.
And so that song also always will be in my heart.
You guys, and that was nice because it represented both of you, you know? Like, I feel like for some people, if they've had Taylor Swift incorporated into their wedding somehow, somebody's lost that argument. Whereas actually, like, you both love Taylor Swift. So that worked so well.
The people who lost the argument were the congregation.
Yeah, they had no choice. No, and it was awesome. Yay, okay, so where is Taylor Swift? You guys have been to the Eras tour. And when she's done with this tour, like, what do we think she's going to do? Is she going to take, like, 2 years off? Is she going to marry Travis Kelce?
I would love for her to take a break. I don't believe she'll do it. I'm sure there'll be Reputation Taylor's version, as well as probably debut Taylor's version. There will no doubt be a new album that she's written while she's been on tour. She won't stop, but I hope she does take a little bit of a break.
Yeah, she just look after herself.
Yeah, like when you talk about the amount of hours she performed I just really hope she goes to like a beach in the Bahamas for a year and just chills out because she's earned it. It's been insane.
Yeah.
All right, guys. Well, next time we'll be back for something probably a little bit more back in our fantasy and sci-fi space. But I have so enjoyed this like little digression into Taylor Swift, who's sort of slightly different for us, but yet so deserving of this podcast.
Yeah, and thank you so much for inviting me to come and speak.
You are so welcome, Ben, and I just know we're going to talk after this about like what your next guest appearance will be. You've been listening to the Fangirl Diaries. Follow us on Instagram at Fangirl Diaries Pod.
And do share us with any of your friends that you think might enjoy the podcast, and rate or review us on Spotify or Apple Music.